The Renaissance Man or Woman. Chapter 1. Renaissance people are born with a strong drive to be themselves freely and purely. The Renaissance person. A Renaissance man or woman is someone who does what they want in a positive, productive natural way without much regard for what society says. There is an evil element to the definition of a Renaissance person. Plenty of criminals do what they want, but they're not Renaissance people because they're destructive. Think of Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Isaac Newton, Tesla, Galileo, and Plato. They dedicated their lives to the pursuit of knowledge in the betterment of mankind. It's a way of life. Even Da Vinci and Michelangelo had to work dull jobs to earn the money to do what they wanted. They lived during the Renaissance, where plenty of merchants called the Medici were getting rich trading stuff in the ports of the Mediterranean Sea. They earned money painting the portraits of their wealthy benefactors. Michelangelo really liked to sculpt stone. Da Vinci did a bunch of different things, but he is mostly known for thinking up visionary ideas ahead of their time. The final goal of a Renaissance person is the realization of I am who I am, away from everything I was brainwashed by. God gave me this voice, this skill, this natural energy. I will use it to enjoy my life and do something useful with it to help somebody, the planet or animals. Joy comes from some trivial things like material goods, food, drugs, and alcohol, but the bulk of joy comes from a release of natural spiritual aesthetic energy. If you do what you love to do and help others in the process, that's a good way to be. When you purge the natural energy inside of yourself on a daily level, you always feel good. It's a bit of self-respect, but more so releasing my spirit, being absorbed in doing things that give me a rush, make me feel exhilarated, make em feel worthy of my life, like I'm doing what my Creator God made em to do. I have to earn money in the world, but at this point in time, I can do what I want within reason without selling my soul to the world monetary system. The men on the cover of Forbes magazine are not really alpha males. 3. A bunch of clones sitting in offices doing boring work all day long. Society says the cool people are the ones on the cover of Sports Illustrated, guys chasing a ball around or a little piece of rubber. I figured out at 13 years old that professional sports is a business venture. There is no real emotional connection between the so-called fans and the sports team or individual athletes. Everybody is in it for either money, ego, fame, adulation, chicks, or a combination of all of these factors. I have watched almost no sports as a spectator since then. I watch the occasional stuff for inspiration, like a surfing competition and some extreme sports, but that's it. I understand that there is a social component to sports. You go to a sports event to be part of a fun time, but if you sit at home watching a game while neglecting your family or doing something interesting, you're a brainwashed clone wasting your life on society's version of what a man is. I was naturally curious as a kid. I liked school. I didn't abide by the stereotype of the class clown, the kid who acted too cool for school. I was good at school not because I was a brown-noser who wanted a good report card, but because I was naturally interested in it. Society has stereotypes for men and women which I didn't care about all that much. I was macho and creative at the same time. In my day, you were too free, people called you a faggot even if you were a heterosexual. Back in the disco era, if you wanted to wear cool clothes, dance around freely and drive a cool car, it was considered sissy-like. In today's world, that's called a metrosexual man. I did it as a young man because I wanted to be a dandy, go with the flow of life, be part of a young happening scene. I didn't have life figured out yet. I was going along having fun. It's fun to ride life when you're young. You have some money and free time, like I did in the 1980s. It was a climate of easiness back then, unlike now where the economic climate is hard. I believe the 1980s was the last great decade when people like me without a silver spoon in our mouths could live great interesting fun lives without a lot of effort because jobs were plentiful and the cost of living was much cheaper than it is now. The climate of the world right now is not geared for an inspired aesthetic lifestyle. It seems like a lot of people are worrying about getting money just to get by. It's an easy way to control people. Tighten up the money supply. I believe people should chase frivolous, meaningless fun while they're young because you only get to do it once. Then when you get older, you can't hang around anymore as a naive young person. After 30, everybody is supposed to go loner, get a job or run a business, make money, and be serious. I got older and a new bevy of young people became the party scene. I rode life freely. I still do. That's being a Renaissance person. You have aimless fun and do positive inspired work too. A Renaissance man or woman can do whatever they want. They don't care about the outside world with all its standards all that much. The smaller the town you live in, the more judgment you get. People don't accept individuals. It's envy or jealousy, one of Dante's 7 deadly sins. People don't like people doing their own thing, not being conformists. Most of us are stuck in some drudgery to make money. We're envious of free people enjoying their lives. If some guy or gal are doing what they want, following the laws, not hurting anybody while some guy or gal are over following the cultural stereotype, doing dull jobs, working for the man, stressed out, not doing much of anything else, they get miffed when they see people being free, enjoying their lives. Go back to the 18th century where Henry David Thoreau, Oscar Wilde, and Mark Twain were talking about these exact same things, a dissociation of man from himself, man going to work somewhere, giving up his freedom and self-sufficiency because he's now relying on someone else for a paycheck, making him a wage slave. That's one reason why we don't have many Renaissance people. The need to earn money drains people and covers whatever natural abilities they have inside of them. Other big reason is straight mundanity. Most people are boring at heart. If you look at dating websites, people seem so fantastic, but most go to work then go home and drown themselves in something trivial to negative like booze, drugs, junk food, video games, social media, etc. A Renaissance person lives to constantly purge the natural energy inside of themselves. Can you dance around freely or are you too repressed? Will I be myself or be what I think the society and people around me want me to be? Will I let the need for money dominate me? You need money, but how much do you need where it cuts into the natural enjoyment of your life? Most people think they need more money, so they work their artificial dull jobs, really not following the free flow of life. Many people are worried about being lonely. They're looking for love. As soon as they break up with someone, they're looking for someone else. If you're that boring that you cannot be happy alone, doing your own thing at least for a while, then you're not great lover material in the first place. Romantic love cannot solve the existential loneliness within a person because the hormones of love fade, plus the fact that even if you are in love and have love, you still have to answer to your own sense of self-respect, accountability and well-being. Just because I'm in love does not mean I'm permanently happy. I still get up every day and know I have to release natural aesthetic-inspired energy to get a rush out of life, to feel worthy of my existence. I do physical, creative, and other activities, then when I blow off a load of energy, I feel good. All Renaissance people live by an inner voice. The outside world is the setting for their lives within their spirits. The hero's journey, to be a Renaissance man. I have no idea where I will go on this journey, but I know I must take it. Martin Luther King, Jr. Curiouser and curiouser, cried Alice, now. I'm opening out like the largest telescope that ever was. Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. Something hidden. Go and find it. Go and look behind the ranges. Something lost behind the ranges. Lost and waiting for you. Go. Rudyard Kipling, The Explorer. A hero is someone who does the best he can even in the worst of circumstances with what he's got. He never gives up. Joseph Campbell. I learned to master the tremblings of my limbs, to control my heartbeat and my breathing, to wipe away the sweat that burned my eyes. Dushan Jersey, Explorer. A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder, fabulous forces are encountered and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. Joseph Campbell, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. The hero's journey is generally a self-absorbed, self-centered warrior process of being who you are. Then once you get there and ride it for a while, you find enlightenment, wisdom, and nobility within. So life moves into another phase, to slow down a bit, take life easier, look at the world and be a part of society more. Carl Jung called it the statesman's phase. It's finding a greater tolerance and understanding of the world around you to share yourself with it. Even though I believe your soul is what it is and never changes, I believe that the way it unfolds is a gradual process of differing intensities loosely identified as the athletic, alpha phase of youth focused on the arrogance and strength of physical power. This is the warrior, adventurous phase of life for the conquest of it plus the craving for all manner of sensuous and aesthetic experiences in an aggressive, I will get my share of living way. The statesman's stage of wisdom and the intellect. The spiritual phase of finding your true soul and using whatever positive energy you have to leave the world a little bit better than when you entered into it. Along with Joseph Campbell, the power of the myth, the masks of God, the inner reaches of outer space, the portable Jung, the hero with 1,000 faces, bringing to the forefront this universal journey of the soul as the journey of life practiced by heroic types throughout history. Carl Jung, collected works of C.G. Jung, too, was also a great believer in past myths that currently shape our individual and collective lives. More recently, Dan McAdams expanded on this concept through the book Stories We Live By, Jean Shindola Bolin with Gods in Every Man, 1989, and Alan Watts and Elliot Elisophone in Erotic Spirituality, 1974. William Blake in The Four Zoas wrote, "Four mighty ones are in every man. A perfect unity cannot exist but from the universal brotherhood of Eden. The universal man, to whom be glory evermore, Amen." This universal man is made up of four facets which define the full spectrum of the masculine archetype. The father, the gentle patriarch, the statesman, stability, warmth, structure, justice, order, kindness, compassion, helper of the less fortunate. The warrior, cavalier, adventurer, achiever, the young conqueror, conquistador, the aggressive fighter, self-control, toughness, aggression in protecting his territory which is his family, property, possessions, dignity, etc., and persistence in going for what he believes in. The artist, creativity, imagination, accessing the soul within to release your powerful hidden subconscious energies. The artist also uses whatever knowledge and wisdom he can find to better his life and the life of others by being a healer and a shaman. The lover, compassion, intimacy, friendship, cooperation, an experience of the full sensual nature of life in all its aspects, an aesthetic love of life, the ability to feel other people and relate to them, seeks out and tries to create a better, more peaceful world. The lover in us keeps us from acting like savages and letting our primal violent warrior sides take over. In the modern world, we're taught to go to school to be molded into good little conformist clones, then in order to be successful, we go to college to further become entrenched in the establishment mindset, after which we take on a dull job and become part of the rat race. Our boyhood rituals are Cub Scouts, a conformist venture geared to produce conformist boys. Then later we either join the military, a sports team or fraternity, get drunk and watch sports on TV as part of the coming of age ritual into manhood, and this is as good as it gets. For nonconformists like me, I say the true ritual into manhood is the journey known as the hero's journey, where you simply go out into the world alone, travel for a while, work at different jobs, meet different people, try different things, live in solitude and with an eclectic mix of people in a variety of settings, all to get the only thing that's the true teacher, experience in the real world, and experience of the inner soul followed by the analysis of it. Society is interested in taming the primal instincts out of man to domesticate them and make them functional working clones, while the true journey of life is to constantly move from your current level of consciousness to a higher one, which can only come by experimenting and experiencing it as a free being in a freewheeling way, at least for a little while, before you settle down to do the few things that are your true identity. But an enlightened person never really settles down, because they know they must constantly inspire themselves day after day by reaching for their physical, aesthetic, creative, loving, transcendent limits, not all the time but a lot of the time. You may settle on a soulful pursuit or two later on and dedicate your life to them, but up until that happens, life should be the ritual of the free exploration of the hero's journey if you truly want to get enlightened. Most of us are working stiff, pop culture entertainment clones detached from ourselves, not tapped into the primal creative masculine energy we were born with. According to some of the system's so-called experts, heroes are flawed people who don't know their own limitations and try to stay in this zone of perpetual youth and inspiration for life forever. They say the death of this part of you is the transition into responsible manhood, but I say this is the only true essence of life. You can have it all, live an adventurous life and be responsible according to society's standards by playing it cool, living by your own standards and giving honest efforts to whatever noble, worthy callings you feel coming from yourself, hopefully earning your keep through them. Some people call it the hero's journey, some call it the rites of passage, some call it the vision quest. It's very simple. Detach yourself from everything you've ever been taught to believe in by your culture to take the time to explore what lies hidden away in your true soul. For most of us, a materially comfortable life and the pursuit of career success keep us occupied with the one-dimensional things of the outside world, which is not bad in and of itself because you have to take care of yourself physically and financially, but there is a more important path in life provided you can get past all this stuff to take the journey to explore what's really intuitively inside of you, which a lot of people never do because they're comfortable with the one-dimensional, superficial world we call society. In fact, many, if not most people, don't set out to find their true identities. They think they know their true identity by making choices from the options offered by their society, but they're still just brainwashed clones, not totally free to live the lives they could live if they followed their souls. The fear of uncertainty and fear of life itself stops many people from doing things to explore their lives, so often fate has to intervene, roll out the carpet from underneath you, strip you of your comfort level such that you have nothing left but you, whereupon you can either go forward to finally find the real you or wither away because life didn't go according to the cute little plan you had all set up. Most people never find their true soul until they lose something they value and are forced to get real about life, which is why I believe desperation is one of the greatest tools of enlightenment around, because it forces you to stop and take an honest look at your life, whereas if you didn't have the crisis, you'd still be going along, working your dull job, paying your bills, eating your junk food, watching TV, etc. It's like the yogi Laleshwari said, when your impurities are burned through suffering, you will become more lustrous than a mirror in the sun, more pure than the most perfect of pearls. If you have an addiction or something stupid you do to excess to get a good feeling, it's a sign that you're trying to compensate for an empty life. The only solution is to find the flow in your soul and live by it, then addictions will be meaningless to you. The old self dies and the real you is reborn, this time living by what lies in your soul/subconscious mind. As I say elsewhere, man has an angst within himself that he must expunge in order to live a life true to himself, and only after he gets his craving for adventure, experience, and savagery out of his system will he be calm enough to make a great lover to one woman, if ever. In my opinion, if you're a real human being, you will be too tied up in your own life to want to bother with a monogamous loving relationship until you're at least 35 years old. By then, you should have seen enough to know what's real and what you want, so you can shut out most of the experiences of the world because you've been there, done that, it doesn't interest you anymore. Once you reach this level in your soul, you can righteously go on to pursue a loving relationship, which is one chapter of life but by no means everything. Youth is the righteous time for the classical hero's journey, not when you're worn out at 65 after a life of hard work. Society wants us to start careers too early. It's better to live freely and just do part-time/casual jobs for a few years while you're exploring your life. I believe the Renaissance man is the fully rounded individual who does a lot of his aesthetic, exploratory, adventurous, and creative living with fervor while he's young, and as he moves on into middle age, he still does it, only it's not as urgent anymore. He lived his youth to the hilt, climbed his mountain and planted the flag, so to speak, but now he can pursue a more temperate life and dedicate himself to more social, communal, traditional, and intimate pursuits in a more accountable way than before if that's what he wants. But some people stay intense and extreme all the way through, right to the bitter end, but there are only a few around like this. Even though most people fancy themselves as noble people lusting for full lives, the truth is that most of the population is spiritually dead, living mundane, cruise comfort, pop culture lives. We should make an effort to find enough love within ourselves to love humanity in some way such that we're trying for peace, to be a positive force to the world somehow, and for some, to love one other soulmate in a loving relationship and bring children into the world for the experience of it, to raise noble beings. This is a full life, to do it all. Run with life for the first half, then become more generative in the second half, passing some of your energy on to others. Men of all ages and all cultures are stuck on showing their shallow egos off to others in some fake standard of manliness, kinda like mine is bigger than yours, I got more stuff than you, I'm the baddest ass in the bunch. They're generally very poor at showing love except through work. I believe after all the jockeying of youth, a 40ish Renaissance man should live like Jesus, Mohammed, Buddha, or Krishna, live and let live, pass some of your energy and love on to others. For lack of a better term, try to culture your so-called feminine side, which is not really feminine traits but your true state of mind buried under many layers of cultural brainwash about what it means to be a man. You're afraid people might think you're a wimp or a fag for acting like a gentle person, but in strong people, gentleness is a virtue. Men are deathly hooked on ego, to look good and successful out in the world, when an enlightened man is one who can get past this to live by what's truly in his soul without having to impress others by putting on a phony front in any way at all. He just lives for the goodness within himself and expresses it freely to the people he loves. To be a lover means to love, which very few men do openly, but in order to mature properly, we should get past the warrior mentality to become gentle lovers too. You don't have to lose your warrior mentality in how you approach your work or guard your territory, but you can move beyond it to embrace the ones you love with open acts of tenderness and gentleness. The perfect man is a strong warrior and nurturing lover at the same time. Apollo in Greek mythology was a man's man, rational, practical and strong. Dionysus was a woman's man, creative, sensual, soft, aesthetic, a lover of life and a lover of people. A combination of the two, along with the tempered wisdom of the old patriarch Zeus and the good looks of Adonis, make the ideal man. You don't have to go to extremism in the soppy side, but feel your feelings and act on them temperately. A man who goes too far with soppy feelings out in public will lose respect from other men, but if you act with compassion and a bit of reserve to keep your dignity, you will be looked upon as the strong, gentle type. A true Renaissance man has compassion for the spirit of life. If you can subordinate your primal aggressive ego to be a lover and a giver, you will be a rare breed of enlightened man. This is the goal, to get beyond ego, to be yourself the way you are without trying to impress others, and show compassion and love for others too. There's an interesting book out there called The Phallus, Sacred Symbol of Male Creative Power by Elaine Danilou, innertraditions.com. Books about myths are at number 291.13, number 398 or BL 311 at the library. Books about men are at number 305.3. e-classsics.com.